Hello again and welcome back to Astroprinter. My name is Liam. Now today, Christmas came a little bit early, it was just after Thanksgiving and Christmas came a little bit early for me. I got a nice delivery, and an unexpected delivery actually, in the mail today. This is the Tronxy Mini SLA 3D printer. It's about to come out on Kickstarter, so it's brand new. Hasn't even been released on Kickstarter yet, so watch out for it if you're interested in small SLAs. Let's do a quick unboxing and setup, which is quite easy. And once we're done with that, I'll kick off a print, and then I'll pause and come back later on, and we'll talk about the quality of the print that comes off it, okay? So let's get going and let's get it opened up. So let's see what's in here. So open the box. We've got a plastic sheet for something. Let's see what else here. Some warning areas about the LCD screen being fragile, that you have to be very careful when you're dealing with it, which is common sense because it is glass. Some foam. Some resin filter sheets when you're putting the resin back in the bottle. Let me actually put that closer so it's easier to see. Let's take out this whole section. Okay, in here I have my power supply and a little pack of tools and some screws for some reason, and empty. So let's see what's inside. Let me lie it down and see what's inside here and slide it out carefully. So this is the cover, and inside the cover it looks like I have my build plate, and that looks like my resin tray. So let me try take it out gently. So I'll have to store that aside. It's a bit marked, but it is a beta machine, so it doesn't matter. I do have my resin tray, which is nice because it actually has markings on the side. 100 milliliters, 120, 140, all the way up to 200 milliliters. And that's the maximum, is 200 milliliters of resin. And it's actually marked on both sides, both here and along the other edge also. So it doesn't matter what way you put it in. That's nice. So this is our build surface. That's empty. Okay, dump that. So the build surface, as I said, is 66 by 118, and the Z height is 150 millimeters, which is a fairly nice. And most of the smaller printers are 150, so that's a good size. Let's see what else is in here. Let me pull all of this out. And the base, to make sure there's nothing underneath. Nothing underneath. So I'll throw it aside. And then take off this top foam. And let's have a look at our printer. So, it is a standard, it's a nice size SLA. Power is on the side here, so we run normal power into it like you would for a computer, or not a computer, sorry, into a printer. You don't have that transformer box, which makes life easier. You have a full-size USB connection. There's no SD card or micro SD card in this. It's a full-size USB. Simple on and off switch. Its mounting for your build plate is similar to what's been done on many other printers, like the Creality and so on. They all use a similar type of connection where it just slides straight on and is clamped home. Again, your resin tray slides right in here. So by loosening these screws, it's got two little notches to hold the resin tray in place because there's nothing around the outside. On the base, there is no exhaust fans up here. Now, some printers come with exhaust fans and they have a fan here, and that fan draws the air and sometimes the fumes from inside the printer out to the outside. This does not. So the only fan that's in it is actually the one in the side here, which is for your power supply. So the only air that's moving is for your power supply. Whatever's inside in this container here in your print area is actually contained. I kind of like that. So let's get this out of here, and we'll have to first of all obviously get it leveled. I'm assuming the leveling process is the same as any other printer. There is a cover on both here, which has been partly removed because this is a beta machine, and this is nice clean cover over your build surface. I'm going to keep that aside actually. So we're going to power it up. I already have a power cable, separate power cable that I use for printers here, so I'm going to power it up with this. There is no voltage selector, so I'm assuming, there's two fans. There's one here, and there's actually one underneath as well for your power supply. So there's two fans there. And I do not see any voltage selector. I want to make sure because you never know. So, no voltage selection, which is good. As long as it doesn't go pop, we're good. Let's plug it in. Power's on. Let's the screen come on. An Ultrabot is what it says here. So our screen is up. So let's go in and have a look at the menu. The menu is, you have print, system and tools. So let's go to tools first of all. So you have manual moving, calibrate, which is to calibrate your screen, and set your Z 0. And then you have a stop to stop your X movement. In system you have information, network, that I'll have to look at in a moment, language, and back. So let's see what languages it offers. So this is it's Chinese or English. It looks like. Let's see what the information says. It just says system is Ultrabot, version 4.3.1.1, and the resolution is 1440 by 2560. Okay, so it looks like it's Ultrabot based. That's fine. So and we have the option to turn on or off audio. Let's click on network. You can actually network connect this. This I haven't done yet, and I will do it at some point. But you can actually connect it to Wi-Fi, it looks like. So let's try that. Go to Wi-Fi. It says it's working. It says network, but it doesn't seem to be an option in there to make any changes. I'll have to look into that. Maybe there's a way to look into it remotely. I'll have to explore that option later on. So first thing we're going to do is move the Z up out of the way so we can get on our build plate, and then we can auto home it. So let's do the tools, manual. We'll set it to 10 millimeters. We have the option of 10, 1 or 0.1. So let's do it at 10. We move our Z up. Oh, that's very quiet. You barely hear any movement, which is good. Now, before we put this on, I'm going to go over the tools. So the tool kit, as I said, this is a beta machine, so it's going to be a bit of a mix. So we have our metal scraper, which is sharp. So it's really sharp to get a metal scraper. Most metal scrapers often come blunt, but this is kind of got a sharp edge, which is good. Now, that's where we'll have our metal scraper. We have our SD card. Let's see what size SD card this is. It doesn't say a size. I'm assuming there's something on it, so we'll look at that in a moment. We have a screwdriver hex, which is actually quite nice. That's a good sturdy screwdriver rather than those small hex keys. Let's see if we need that, but it looks like a good size screwdriver. We might need that soon. We have the plastic spatula, which is actually used for either scraping off or cleaning your vat or mixing the resin in your vat. It is not used for lifting the part off your build plate. Do not use this for that. That's our plastic spatula. Organize this a little bit over here. And then we have 2 size Allen keys or hex wrenches. So and we have these spare screws, which I do not know what they are for, but we have some spare screws in case, I'm assuming it's in case something is lost or missing, because it is a beta machine. And obviously you have your obligatory gloves for when you're handling resin, which we will be using shortly. Now, it does not come in any resin, so you need to be warned of that. There's no resin included, so if you do, and that may or may not change, but right now there is none. So when it comes to actually buying one of these, you have to make sure you include yourself a container of resin, because you'll need to have some resin when if you want to do a test run. So let's get this leveled. First of all, let's try this screwdriver. Oh, the right size, perfect. We'll loosen these 4 screws on each side, 2 on each side here. This is for bed leveling. Make sure this is clean. There's a little bit of marking on it, but it's okay. See if it's been used. It doesn't smell like it's been used on any resin. It's a bit dusty, but it's okay. So we're going to mount it on here. Loose. Clamp this down home, tight. Now we will need a sheet of paper. I have a sheet of paper here. Let me just rip off some of this. I need a sheet of paper. This is to level your vat. So standard photocopier paper is perfect. Feed it in. And then in your menu system, do home. And let the printer home itself, making sure that the resin vat is fully covered, or the LCD is fully covered. Now that it's fully covered, use your screwdriver again. Push down to hold everything in place and tighten these up. Don't over tighten them, because you'll run into problems. So this is basically the same process as I've done with my Creality. And the idea of the sheet of paper is to create the proper spacing between the build plate and the LCD. If you don't do that, you're not allowing room for the FEP, which is this part, the base of your resin vat. So we're going to turn around and we're going to again go back in here and move Z up. Take this out. So now we have our resin, making sure this is clean, because you don't want any material coming between your FEP and your screen, and on top of that you don't want any material coming between your build plate and your FEP when you're printing. And this looks nice and clean, easy enough to replace. There's a couple of big screws here to take off. And then I assume you just stretch your FEP over there, like most people do with the cap of a bottle. So since it does not come with just to hold that in place so it doesn't move around. And let's put on the lid just to see how it looks. As I said, it's a bit messy because it is a beta machine, but it's fine. And it'll go on like that. There's no lip for the sit on, it just sits on the edge. A lip around the edge would be nice, but it's not. It does rattle around there. But the only air is coming out here, so I'm assuming the air is coming up from underneath and blowing out here on the side. So let's put those aside on our sheet of paper. So let's get our card and insert it on the side here. Let's see what's on the SD card. So we go backwards, go back, we'll go to print. Let's see what's listed on here. Order run. There's a Kung Fu Panda print. There's an art lampshade. I'm assuming that will be very large. There's a deer. So let me get some resin into this first before I choose a part. So again, put that aside. I have some resin already here. Always, before handling resin, first cover your work area. 2, gloves are essential. Resin is nasty stuff. You do not want to be handling resin with your bare hands because the outcome is never good. This actually is my, this is Frozen Rapid Black resin. As I said, none comes with it, so you need to be aware of that. We get set up. Open up our resin container. Let's see. Let's pop off the seal. Oh, before I do that, actually, I almost forgot the most important step. Shake the daylights out of it. You must shake up resin. If you don't, you're going to run into problems because some of it settles, and resins are generally clear and they add colorants to them, so if you don't shake it up you won't get a good mix, and that's not what you want. So pop this off again. There we go. And I'm going to pour in some resin in here. I'll do about 100 milliliters. Doesn't want to drip off. And we'll get it close up. I'll give that a proper wipe down in a while. For now, this will be good. Clean off my hands because I don't want the resin on everything. So let me get a cloth. Don't want the resin all over the place. So we have resin in there. This is not a low odor resin, so it is what it is. Let's see how it goes. Move our glove to a point and let's see how it goes. So I'm going to choose probably the deer. Now hit play and it goes to home. So this is an 8-hour print. So let's see how this goes for the initial kickoff. So it's starting on the supports. Let's see if we hear the FEP separate. Waiting for the first layer to be completed. Now they do say that this has 2 light sources in there. I haven't looked at it yet because you saw me power it up and unbox it. I will inspect. Okay, so just the first layer as after being completed. I'll put these aside. I'm not using their power supply because I actually have one that would work. It looks like it automatically switches from 110 to 220, so it shouldn't be a problem. But it does say they have two light sources in there, and because of that, it gives it a more even exposure of light. So let's see if that is true. I'm going to let this do 1 or 2 more layers. It doesn't say how long each exposure is, but this is layer 2 out of over 2,200. So it's going to take a bit of time. What I'm going to do is I'll pause, I'll come back, and then we'll have a look at the results when it's completed. Well, this print has been running now for the last couple of hours. It has been a total of just over 4 hours it's been running. It still has a long way to go, but I can actually clearly see the legs of the deer that are printing. Let me see if I can get a little bit closer to see if you can make it out. As you see in there, the legs of the printer are already printing, and they're starting to show above the surface as you see it working away. The only noise the printer makes is actually when the Z-axis comes back down. As the Z-axis rises, it rises really slowly, so there's zero sound. Its fans are loud because of the power supply, so maybe quieter fans would be a nice addition, but that's not what is available in this beta version. I will mention it, that the quieter fans would be a plus. But overall, the printer is doing well. The prints are holding. It's only doing 8-second exposures. The first layer was 80 seconds. But after that, it went down to 8 seconds exposures after the first couple of layers. Let me quickly tilt up the printer cover so you get an idea to see what's actually going on inside. I'm just going to do that briefly because I don't want to expose the resin too much to the light. So if you look closely inside, you can see that it's printing away. This has got a couple of hours left to go in this print. According to its screen, it has another 6.5 hours to go. So we'll let this continue, and when it's complete, we'll come back, which will probably be late tonight or tomorrow morning from my time, and I will update the recording with the finished print, and we'll go through and we'll rinse it off, and we'll run it through a curing station, then we'll examine the results. So, be back in a moment. I got out of bed this morning to come down and check on my print. Please excuse my appearance, but print is finished, and looking inside, the print looks really, really good, and I'll open it up in a moment, and my cleaning station's in a different room, so I'll clean it and come back in a moment and show you how the print looks once it's been cleaned off and so on. But an instant flaw this morning. When the Z-axis comes to full height, it lifts the lid. The lid is no longer sitting on the base. So the lid, the cover, is not deep enough by about 8 millimeters. So it needs to be about a centimeter taller to be just above the handle. Because when the handle comes all the way up to the top of Z, it's the screw on, the retaining bolt on top here that's actually lifting the cover off the base. It's a small issue, but it's an issue, and it means remolding this or completely redesigning the handle, and I think the retaining knob. So let me show you how the print looks. And I'm not going to take it off yet because My hands are, I don't have my gloves on, but as you can see, the print looks really, really good. Let me zoom in and I'll show you a bit more detail. So that looks really good. Looks like nice smooth surfaces, but it's hard to tell until it's properly rinsed off with isopropyl alcohol and being washed. So I'll come back to this in a while. I will take it off from here. I will allow the tray to drip off a little bit. And once that's dripping and it's been drained off a little bit more, I will come back to curing it. I'll get it rinsed, get it cured, and I'll come back and show you what the results look like. It's running through the curing station right now. I grabbed my calipers to check the gap here. It's a small issue. It just means extruding this a little bit larger when you design it. But let's get this level and see how much it's off. Get my calipers, and it's off by about 8 millimeters. So if this was about 10 to 12 millimeters taller, it would actually clear this. I'm guessing I would even go taller again if it was my design. I would probably up it to about 15 millimeters taller, extend it a little bit. That means redesigning the boxing. It means redesigning this. I don't want, because if you don't do that, you will not clear the full 150 millimeters in height that it's supposed to have. It is as I said, it's a 150 by 118 by 66 deep. And to make that work, when it goes all the way to the top of Z, you have this effect. So I don't think my calipers will reach that full height, but let me quickly check. Yeah, I don't think it will. No, I can't measure this Z height, so maybe I can actually. It might reach with the plate on. I've already washed everything, by the way. And I'm not touching the resin, I'm only touching the vat on the outside. I know better. Very gently take that off, and there's a bit of spillage over there. So let me get something to place this on. We have a bit of spillage of resin over here. I'll clean that in a moment. Will this reach? No. It goes above 150, but I still think they need to. It's about 158 or 155 is what the distance is here. Still not enough to clear, so they need to add about 10 millimeters to the lid. And that's just finished, as you've heard. So let's take this off gently and have a look at our finished part. Still a little tacky, so probably could do with a little bit more curing. I'm going to put it back in again, actually. It's still a little bit tacky to touch. I'll put it in for another session. So my curing is just finishing off. Let's give it another round of curing. It'll be ready any moment. So quick overview, and then we'll talk about the quality of the print. Well, as a printer, it's a nice size printer. It is a smaller build volume than a lot of what's out there today, but it is designed as a mini resin printer, so chances are it's going to be sold. And I do not know the price of this. It's going out on Kickstarter. But it is a mini printer. It seems to print very well, and we'll examine the print shortly. But overall, it's a nice printer. There's a few things that need to be fixed. Obviously, the height of this, which we already addressed. When the Z comes to full height after printing, it lifts the lid. That's the problem. That needs to be corrected. It needs to be about maybe 12 millimeters taller. And I would actually like if there was a bit of a lip on the edge here that actually set over the edge, so it actually held it in place. Because even when Z is not at full height, it's just sitting on top of the surface. It is not actually held in place. So it'd be nice to replace that, put a lip over the edge so it actually locks over the edge, and so it doesn't get rattled around. All the components that come with it are good. It doesn't come with a resin, so if you do get this, and that might change with the Kickstarter, I do not know, but it does not come with any resin. So if you decide that, if you do decide to go with it, you're going to have to get your own resin. As I said, unless that changes with the Kickstarter, I do not know, it may. This is almost done, and we'll have a quick look at the part. But overall, it's good. One thing I would like is, there's one of the software features I think it should have, is it doesn't have the ability to actually to clean the vat. That just finished. And what that does is it basically exposes the whole vat to the UV lamp once you've drained out the vat, and it hardens the material in there, making it easier to remove with your plastic spatula. You would actually harden it a little bit and then scrape it off with this. So that would be a nice add-on to the software, and that's only a software mod as far as I can tell. You're basically exposing it for 70 or 80 seconds to harden what's in there, and you scrape it out using the spatula. So let's have a look at our part. So our deer came out really well. This is not a 2 or a 4K printer, so the quality will not be as good as a 2 or a 4K printer. I do have a little bit of elephant's foot at the base, but that's because by default, I used everything by default, and by default the printer uses the first layer at 80 seconds, which is kind of long because this is a fast resin. So even though I didn't tweak it, I just used it as is. If I went with, if I was going to set it, I'd probably set it at 40 as my first layer to see how that worked out. But there is a little bit of elephant foots, but it's not much. That can be actually quickly fixed with a bit of fine sandpaper. But the detail on the deer is very good. So just let me zoom in a little bit closer and show you more details. So let's look at a little bit more detail on the deer. The head is nice and shiny. It comes out really nice and shiny, and so does the legs. The body, not so much. The body's a little bit dull, but that's okay. It's a smooth finish. Now, is it as smooth as some of the other printers? No. You can see some layering, a little bit of layering in there, but that's to be expected because it's not a high resolution 4K or 2K printer. But the detail on the top of the antlers is really fine. This is a very fragile piece, and even as a fragile piece, it came out really well. It could maybe do a little bit more curing in the curing station, but overall it's good. I think the quality is nice. If you want to get into a small resin printer, I think it does a pretty good job. I think it does a nice work. I have some layered colored or layering here, and that's probably my fault because I did start out with 8mm. I don't know if you can see it really close on the legs here, but there is a slight shift right here on the legs. You might see it here also. And I actually did change the exposure a little bit for a while to try it out. I went from 8 seconds up per layer, because this is a fast resin, up to 15, and then dropped it down again later on. But so that's probably what created that little layer shift, and that's my mistake. But overall, the quality is really good. It's way better than you'll get with any FDM printer, right? But obviously the issue is size. You are going to have limitations on physical size because of resin. But all in all, I think it's a nice print. I think it came out really nice. I do have higher resolution printers that actually do a slightly better job and you have less visible layering, but that's because of the resolution of your screen. But this is really good. And anyone who wants to get into and exploring some resin printing, it's a nice size resin printer to start off with. It does have a few nice features, as I said. The one thing I like about the vat is the vat has a pouring section on the corner. So when you actually pour out your resin back into the bottle using the filters, it has a pouring spout on the edge of the vat, which none of the other printers that I've seen to date have that. So let me quickly show you that. While we're zoomed in, I can take out my vat because I've already emptied it. I haven't cleaned it out fully yet. There is some residual in there. So let me slide out my vat. As you see here, there's actually a little pouring area right here in the vat, which is nice for draining the vat. Right there. So you can actually pour it out back into its bottle. That I like. I like that ability. Most other vats do not have it. They have square size like this, just like they have here. So this is a nice addition. But all in all, it's a nice printer. It works. It needs a few tweaks from this beta model, but all in all, it's a good quality printer, I think. I'm going to do some more printing with it and give more feedback to Tronxy on the quality. But all in all, I think it's a nice little printer. And would I buy one myself if I was starting off and I wanted to get into some resin printing? Yeah, it's a good place to start. As I said, I don't know its price point yet, but it'll be a good printer to start out with, unless you want to go really large, which most people don't want to start off with small components anyway, and they use resin printers when they're printing miniatures in most cases. Like if you're into doing characters for gameplay and so on, this is a resin printer is ideal for that, and this printer will be perfect for that because you won't go outside of its build area. Not everybody wants to build or print really large resins, because resin does cost a lot more than FDM. So it's a good starter point, and I think I kind of like it, minus a few tweaks that I've already highlighted that it needs. Overall, it's a good printer. One little thing I want to add: after I finished my print the other day, I decided to clean out my vat because I wanted to change resin colors. And the best way of cleaning a vat to clean resin is to use isopropyl alcohol. So I use normal 70% isopropyl alcohol to actually clean out my vat. That's readily available in your pharmacy and so on. And I poured some into the vat to dissolve whatever was left over of my resin. But up came another issue that I will be addressing with the manufacturer. If you look really closely, I think this is printed from ABS. I think this is made of ABS. While it's nice and it's light, the isopropyl alcohol, if we turn it here, dissolved the vat. All the way around, you can see it on all the sides right here, it's all melted. Because you can vapor smooth, even here, you can see it actually really closely there. You can smoothen ABS with isopropyl alcohol. So it actually, the isopropyl alcohol in here dissolved away the lining of the base of the vat where I poured in the isopropyl alcohol up to the height of the isopropyl alcohol. And there's actually a clear, if you look at it, the shine, there's a clear line right there where the isopropyl alcohol was poured in. To the height of the isopropyl alcohol downwards, it actually melted. And even to this day, it's hardened somewhat since then, but it actually has melted the vat. So this vat is probably made from ABS, is my guess, or similar materials, which will allows it to be dissolved by isopropyl alcohol, which is kind of bad because you need to have a material that is impervious to isopropyl alcohol, which is why most vats are made out of some form of aluminum casting. Because if you don't, it's going to be affected by the isopropyl alcohol and it's going to melt just as this did. So this vat is useless right now. It will no longer can be used for anything, and even if it could, you could never clean it properly because you can't use isopropyl alcohol to clean it out. So again, it's another little small thing. It's why we do beta machines and do some beta testing, but it is a little issue that came up during the cleaning up after my initial print. As I said, the print came out really fine, but it's actually this casing needs to be changed to something that's more resistant to something like an aluminum casting, ideally, and the height of the cover for the printer needs to be extended by about 12 to 15 millimeters to make sure it clears the height of the Z as the Z goes to its full height when it's finished to print. All in all, it was a nice printer to use. Needs a few tweaks, but other than that, works well and gives out nice quality prints. I hope you found this useful information. Please remember Click on subscribe and like and follow and thumbs up on depending on what social media you're on. If you're on Facebook, like and thumbs up on the page. If you're on YouTube, click on like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and ding that bell so you get reminded anytime I bring new content out to my channel. Obviously, if you want to support my channel, my Patreon links are below. And also, if you want to do one-off support, you have my option for my PayPal, or you can just buy me a cup of coffee. There's a link there for that also. And as well as that, if you're looking to purchase, please consider purchasing from one of my affiliate links, which are below. It doesn't give me much, but it's a small amount of money to help pay for the streaming service. So thank you again, and have a good day. Just remember, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay printing.